Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Lars Howlett, you're leading this today and for World Labyrinth Day. What a delight. What a delight. I'm Lauren Artress and founder of Veritas. And this is a Veritas event as well as a TLS event that we are joining today on a launch that Lars will fill you in a little bit more. The Labyrinth Society launched World Labyrinth Day. And we're walking as one at one. And so we're delighted that you're all here. I don't know if we're all here. People can keep coming on, but we're delighted to be doing this today. So Lars, please, you're going to give us a little bit of history about this day.
Thank you. Yes, Lauren, I'm so happy to be here with you and everyone joining from around the world. Happy World Labyrinth Day. I'm wearing my World Labyrinth Day t-shirt here with the earth covered in labyrinths. And World Labyrinth Day began in 2009 by the Labyrinth Society. So this is the 12th annual event, and it is the first Saturday in May every year. So you can look forward to it in the future on the first Saturday. The invitation is to walk as one at 1 o'clock in your local time zone to create a rolling wave of peace across the world. So World Labyrinth Day actually began yesterday at 4 o'clock, well, California time, but at 1 p.m. in Christmas Island in the South Pacific. And the Labyrinth Society itself is having a 24-hour live stream today, which you can continue to join into if you'd like to follow the World Labyrinth Day celebration across the globe. It's going to conclude in Hawaii this evening at 8 o'clock. So I used to be the chair of World Labyrinth Day for 5 years, and typically we had over 35 different countries and over 5,000 people participating in the event. So you can participate by walking a labyrinth or using a finger labyrinth or drawing a labyrinth or watching a labyrinth video or movie. Just being here today, you are celebrating and joining in the intention of this event for peace and unity and connection across the world. So thank you. It's really meaningful to see all your faces and hear where you're all from, and to have you all participate in this. So the opening quote I'd like to share is from Rebecca Solnit, and she says that a labyrinth is a symbolic journey, but it is a map we can really walk on, blurring the difference between map and world. I'll read it again. A labyrinth is a symbolic journey, but it is a map we can really walk on, blurring the difference between map and world. So the labyrinth is an ancient archetype that goes back 4,000 to 6,000 years. And what's really incredible about the pattern is that no one knows exactly where it came from, and it may have arisen in different places throughout the world. So there is no one country or culture that can claim the labyrinth as its own. It's really everyone's. I call it an open source archetype, and it's a pattern that can be used and has been used for thousands of years by many different people in many different ways. So, you know, what an incredible symbol that can really bridge all the different cultures and religions and places, you know. So it's really special that we have this symbol, and thanks to Lauren Artress, you know, and the work of Veritas to really spread the word about labyrinths and create greater awareness, and to pepper the planet with them, along with so many other people who have done that in their own ways. The Labyrinth Society, and now the Australian Labyrinth Network, and the European International Labyrinth Society as well. So I've been thinking about Earth Day and World Labyrinth Day, and both of them really have a global perspective. So with Earth Day, we think about the Earth as a whole, and the state that we are in right now. And then with World Labyrinth Day, we also consider how we are connected. And it's especially a challenging time because so many of us are isolated, that we are sheltering in place, and maybe we don't feel connected. And something that has arisen in different places is the similarity of our experience now to the astronauts who are going into space and look back and see the Earth from afar, and they have an isolation of their own when they go on these journeys. And then the isolation also creates an interesting sense of connectedness, even though they are apart from their family or the 6 billion people here on the planet. So this is the opening reading that I'd like to share from Frank White, who is studying the overview effect. And he says, "The view of Earth from space, the whole Earth perspective, I think, is the true symbol of this age. And I believe that's what's going to happen, is that there's going to be a greater and greater interest in communicating this idea, because after all, it is key to our survival. We have to start acting as one species with one destiny. We are not going to survive if we don't do that. In response to COVID, the Earth's population has acted as a species, perhaps for the first time ever. The phrase of the astronauts, 'We are all in this together,' is stated as a self-evident truth, though it was not even so clear even a month ago." So now I'd like you to take your finger labyrinth and we will do a breathing ritual that I learned from Thich Nhat Hanh. And he taught this at a meditation retreat that I attended in Canada. And he practices mindful calligraphy, where he draws a circle, he paints a circle, and when he creates the circle, he begins by placing his brush at the base of the paper, and then breathing in begins the circle, and then makes it about 1/3 of the way, and then breathing out completes the circle. And so this is also a record of one breath of his mindfulness practice. And so what I've found is a nice way to kind of drop into the meditation is to place your finger at the base of your labyrinth, and then circling the perimeter of the labyrinth. If you have a Chartres labyrinth, then it could be the lunations, but it could just be the outer edge of your labyrinth. And we'll breathe in 1/3 of the way around, and then breathe out the other 2/3 of the way around, and complete the circle with a mindful breath. And it is now 1 o'clock in California, so this is our walk as one at 1, and we will begin the meditation practice. So I invite you to, and I see that some are also walking the labyrinth now, which is really special too. So thank you. I see that in Boston. So we will begin with the 5 breaths, and I'll invite you to start now, breathing in and out. And then continuing at your own pace, Breathing in and out around the circle of the labyrinth. And now we will begin the finger labyrinth practice, or the walking labyrinth meditation. And I invite you to reflect on our connection around the world. And when you get to the center, if you feel it calls to you to visualize the earth as a whole as seen from space, as if you were looking out the window and looking at the earth floating in the blackness of space, to see the entire earth, the green and brown continents, the blue water, the white clouds circling the atmosphere around the planet, the lights coming on in the evening and the shadow of the earth, of the sun and the day passing, and sit with that visualization of the earth in the center, and then retrace your finger back out again. And if you complete your finger walk, you can always retrace the perimeter and re-enter the labyrinth again, and continue the experience if you'd like to. And we'll have about a 10-minute time now for you to enjoy this labyrinth experience. Thank you for joining in that. Frank White has been sharing on a blog more about the relationship of the overview effect to the perspective of what's happening right now. And he writes, like the astronauts, we have been away, isolated, most of us with a small crew or maybe even alone, and we are on an expedition, but not necessarily one of our own choosing. These are notes, actually. This is not a word for word quote from him, but like astronauts, we are also confronting our own mortality. You know, they head to the moon and they're in a fragile environment and things can happen. Astronauts are physically separated from their family and often checking in on them via video chat or email and electronically as well. And astronauts also don protective gear for spacewalks, you know, to go outside of their station. So it's a big test of trying to be comfortable with uncertainty, to be comfortable and productive, but also to take care of your basic needs. You may feel alone perhaps, but you are also supported and loved and connected to a wider community, you know, back in the mission control, or, you know, your family and friends that are supporting you from afar. So Nicole Slott, astronaut, shared her perspective on the New York Times in an op-ed video. And in the video, she says, "The way we peacefully and successfully achieve our missions on a space station is the same way we should be doing it down here on Earth. We need to be behaving like crew members on Spaceship Earth and not just passengers. And that's what I think is really going to carry forward after all of this." Nicole Slott. So on the space station, you know, everybody's role is defined and everybody's role makes a difference. But really, that's the truth for all of us, you know, in this planet, that we all have a role, and it is making a difference, and it affects the people around you. So we're not really passengers here on this spaceship Earth. We are all crew members on the spaceship Earth. And then Frank White continues, "Just as astronauts experience the overview effect." So the overview effect is the experience of being in space and looking back and seeing the Earth as a whole. Just as the astronauts experience the overview effect when they are in outer space and return with a new worldview, maybe we will experience the COVID effect during this time and emerge with a new perspective on ourselves, our planet, and our place in the universe. The big difference between us as astronauts of Spaceship Earth and real astronauts like Chris Hadfield and Nicole Slott is that we did not know our mission when all of this began. We have to define it while we are in the middle of the expedition. Unlike a professional astronaut who carries out a mission that has already been assigned to them, we get to choose the meaning of this experience, the nature of humanity's mission. What do you think it might be? Frank White from the Overview Effect blog. I'd also like to share that the music we listened to during the finger walk was composed for the Sydney Park Centennial Park Labyrinth in Sydney, Australia by Corinna Bonchek. And I will put that in the chat, the link to her music. She composed it for people to listen on headphones and walk the outdoor labyrinth in Sydney, Australia. But I was in contact with her, and if you saw my tutorial video about how to walk a finger labyrinth, then that's the music I use in the finger labyrinth video as well. And it includes the sounds of field recordings of birds chirping in the background. So it's kind of a nice experience to listen to the music and also have nature in there in the soundtrack, I thought. So Lauren, would you like to share anything at this point, or should we open it up for?
Yes, I would. Thank you,
Great.
Lars, so much for this. And I think it's an important message that, and World Labyrinth Day can help remind us, you know, that we're all crew. We're all crew, and that we're not, none of us are passengers on this Earth, and on Spaceship Earth, as Bucky Fuller used to say. So that we're all crew, and the crew right now is we have orders to, at least in California, to stay safe and stay in and be cautious and be wise. And but it's such an important message that we're really all crew here, and it means all hands on deck right now, for sure. And I think World Labyrinth Day is a wonderful way to really connect people and be mindful, and to teach people that we have this amazing archetypal tool. I'll put it tools, patterns, blueprints is a better way of saying it, that we share among us, worldwide. And, you know, it's one of the mysteries, like you mentioned, Lars. It's one of the mysteries is, how did labyrinths wind up in different cultures? You know, there's labyrinths in Spain, there's Celtic labyrinths, there's all over the world. And I always joke, and they didn't have email attachments. You know, how did that work? And, you know, Sig Lonergan, of course, would say, well, it comes from the stars. The patterns come from the stars. And so we're working with something that is powerful, has truly ancient roots, and is a unifier, for sure. Sure, Lars, thank you so much. Thank you so much for guiding us on this very important day.
This is the Ariadne's Labyrinth song by Rick Scott, and it's a song that was created for a Labyrinth gathering, and it's a beautiful song all about labyrinths for us.
All right, and so we're saying goodbye. We're having music, and we can wave and drop off in the next, you know, minute or two. So take care. Thank you for being here. Continue with the TLM World Labyrinth Day.
Footsteps take you through, circling and turning. At the center you find you. At the center you find you, my friend. At the center you find you. Circling and turning. At the center you find you.
I'll let people unmute themselves again if they want to say goodbye.
Okay, you're unmuted, or there. Unmute if you want.
Bye-bye, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We still want a copy of the poem.
Okay.
Towards us and beside
Put it in the resources.
we circle round
Thanks so much.
Oh, the poem and the resources. Take care, all.
to a common ground. To
Catherine.
a common ground, my friends. To a common ground.
Bye.
The labyrinth
Bye.
is leading us to a common ground.
Bye-bye.
Lars.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
On spiral paths we gather, our numbers still increase. All around the universe, we're on the path to peace. We're on the path to peace, my friends, on the path to peace. All around the universe, we're on the path to peace. Labyrinth is a pathway, footsteps take you through, circling and turning. At the center you find you. At the center you find you, my friend. At the center you find you. Circling and turning. At the center you find you. At the center you find you, my friend. At the center you find you. Circling and turning. At the center you find you.